Hey guys, Omni here. So last night I saw The Eternals, and after watching it and stepping out of the theater, I can see how it can be kind of a divisive film, especially for an MCU movie. It looks almost nothing like an MCU film that we've seen before. The tone is unlike any we've had before. There are familiar elements in here, but it works and functions in quite a different way than anything we've had in the series up to this point. The score on Rotten Tomatoes at this point, as of recording this video, which is about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at this time, the critic score is now down to 49%. Given the way the tomato meter, whatever you want to call it, works, is based on is it rotten, is it not, and how many of those averages out. So this means that at least more than 50% have deemed it rotten overall. So that's how that score pans out. However, to balance that out, because I know a lot of people, general audiences, most of us, don't give a shit what the critics say. And a lot of you don't care what I have to say, but I'm here to tell you anyway. The audience score is at 86%. So that tells you the difference right now from the critical reception to this movie and the fan reception to this movie. So when we're going to go ahead and talk about this, I think I'm going to kick it off by just talking about the cons that I had in the film, some of the negative things, and then we'll get into the things that I really enjoyed about the movie. Because for me, I'll just go ahead and let you know, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Is it perfect? No, but I will tell you exactly what I did like about it and what I enjoyed about it, because it's going to be different from a lot of other people. This is a huge cast when it comes to a Marvel movie, when it focuses on a singular story, and one of which, where this is our introduction to all of these characters. None of these characters in this movie have a setup in another film. We haven't seen any of these people before, and we are getting to know them through this journey alone. And that poses quite the challenge for this, because there are, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Kit Harington, as much as he's in the trailer, as kind of a lead-in, as like a little bit of like setting the world for us, isn't a major player, I will say, in the overall story. He's mostly going to be set up for more, so I'll at least temper your expectations with that. So I'd say there's 12 characters that we're being introduced to, 13 if you include Kit Harington, that tie into what is happening in this film and what is important to this film. And this is, I believe, the longest, if not one of the longest, films in the MCU. And a lot of that time is built to building up these characters. Unlike, I would say, a lot of, and the majority of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, this is more character driven than I think any of the others prior. This is a slow burn of a film. It takes its time. It lets you spend time with these characters. It is telling kind of two stories simultaneously, like from their landing on Earth to as they were given their mission from the Celestial Irisham to come to Earth to protect it from deviants, and how they kind of do that and what happens to them once they've finished their mission. They go their separate ways, and we see how life on Earth has affected them over time, and the things that they've witnessed, the horrors that they've witnessed, how that's affected them, how they will kind of have like a conflict of self with their mission towards being on the sidelines while all these things have happened, to this event, the emergence, which is proposed in the trailer, that is this cataclysmic event that's going to come, and them deciding as a unit and debating as a unit, because they kind of exist in this moral gray area where nobody's really right or wrong. Like when you look at the grand scheme of things, because this movie is about scale, scope, consequences, and the overall condition of humanity, and the good, the bad, the ugly of mankind, and whether or not we deserve to be saved. What is a lot of what it comes down to. And to do that, to build that out, this thing is very slow paced. It is methodical. It is very meditative. There's a lot of beautiful cinematography in this. Said I was going to talk about the negatives first, but here I am just like talking about what I liked. So whatever, we'll just do that. We'll go the normal order. Things I liked. The cinematography, I think, was stunning, next level, gorgeous. But I think this is the best looking MCU film we've had when it comes to visuals. The color grading is unlike anything we've had. Visually, you can tell it apart from the other films as well. The production design, it is very sci-fi in a way that I would say it's not quite like what we've had sci-fi wise with like Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor even. This is more like Prometheus, Dune, like that type of sci-fi, this headier kind of sci-fi feel. The sound design, the music in this movie blew me away. Everything on the production level, on the like the technical level of bringing this film to scale, to life, to screen is excellent. Now, I've heard some things about the IMAX, but I won't talk about that because I can't see. I don't have an IMAX anywhere near me, so I can't say for sure about the differences in that. Just basically, it just comes down to a lot of the scenes that you would think would be shot in IMAX aren't, so it like cuts between your usual widescreen aspect ratio and the IMAX full screen ratio at weird times. That's what I've heard, but it's I can't, it didn't ruin my experience because I didn't have an IMAX theater, so it was always the same for me. The teamwork here, like I said, this is more about the characters, and they spend time with these characters, and I felt warmth, compassion, camaraderie between these people that we are been introduced to. They are each very unique. They are not just in their powers, but their personality, their wants, their feelings, their dreams, and just kind of how they not only influence humanity, but how humanity influences them in return. And it's really interesting. Like, it's as much as the MCU usual sneaks its way in here with some comedy that's hit or miss, or, you know, the obvious connections to other films, or the bombastic action sequences, it's really about the characters and about this philosophy behind it all. Also coming down to identity, mission, blind duty, and how you deal with that, and how, again, being on Earth has changed everybody. The scale of this film, as much of it takes place on Earth, we see a lot of stuff that really sets the scale and the consequences of all of the actions that are about to take place in this film, and what that can set up for future films as well. As much as this film is I feel it's self-contained, it has a little bit of an open end, as they all kind of do. This one has a little more of an open end than any of the other ones that we've had, and it's definitely setting up the continuation to see Eternals 2, or maybe follow it up in some other film. But this movie is going to be evolving the Marvel Universe, at least maybe not on the multiversal scale. I don't know about that yet, but as far as the universal scale goes, we learn more about the workings of the Marvel Cinematic Universe than we have ever known before, from how it was birthed, how it is maintained, and the beings that do that themselves, the Celestials, and how they steward the universe forward. It's really, really interesting, and it's less about, like I said, the superhero antics, but there's plenty of that in here, and the action is really good as well. I've heard some people say that it's so-and-so or whatever, but I really liked it. It's sprinkled throughout. It's not heavy in the action, but when it hits, I found it quite enjoyable. Makari in this, played by Lauren Ridloff, she does fantastic job, and I think that she's a standout speedster that has hit the scene that I really enjoyed, especially when she puts her powers to work on the field, because there's some scenes with her character that blew me away, that were really fun to watch. And just like the unit that they create, all their powers, like I said, are very unique. And when they all come together, work together, and team up against the threat at hand, it's quite interesting how they all kind of play off of each other, and how uniquely they wield their powers. And again, like I said, I don't know that there's like a standout performance among the cast. They all are phenomenal. They are all, like I said, unique. They are all talented actors, and they bring a lot of warmth, heart, and, like I said, charisma to the roles. Now, where I would say that I found some minor issues, and that will probably be bigger issues for other people, I appreciate slow burn, character driven, like meditative films, and I really liked what they did with this because it was really about the consequences of action and the consequences of inaction, and I really liked all the themes that this played with. There is an entire story thread in here I've heard some people complain about and even mention why don't you just cut that whole thing? At the end, it doesn't really matter. While I can see that, and at the end of it, I kind of felt like, sure, maybe, but if you think about the themes of the movie, it is necessary for the challenges and the reflection of our heroes to include that storyline, so I understand why they did. And I don't fault it for really being in there. So it's not quite a issue for me, but I can see how that would be for a lot of other people. The third act, there is some twists and turns in here, again, that I'm not going to spoil. As there are with many superhero films, there's some conveniences, there's some MacGuffin-y kind of moments and stuff like that. It was kind of clunky, and I feel like maybe there was another way that they could have restructured that, added a little bit of setup for some of the twists. While there was setup for some of these things to happen, I don't feel like there was enough setup for it, and it does feel a little abrupt and a little extreme given what we've learned to know about what's been going on, who's been involved, and all that jazz. Now, there is one particular character in here that made me laugh quite a bit when they were introduced, and they end up being throughout a majority of the film once they are introduced, and they still have some laugh-worthy moments, don't get me wrong, but it halts some of the scenes every now and then to focus on this character and their reactions, their interactions, their interjections and stuff like that. It's like I was saying, it's like that Marvel humor kind of having to creep itself in to break up any tension in the scenes. Because even in one of the action set pieces, I would say somewhere in the middle of the film, they do this a lot with this character, and it's just like, okay, halting the action, halting the progress of the story for these little quips. But like, it's funny sometimes, but I think they overuse this character a little bit. Other than that, I enjoyed the film. I think it's probably, I'd say it's in my top 10 MCU films, which would put it up in the upper half. Again, there's so many of these, I don't know exactly, unless I really sat down and had to think about it, where I would rank it myself in the totality of the entire thing. I don't think any of the MCU films are perfect films, to say the least, but as far as like something that feels like it was larger than life and was more than just a comic book film, I feel like it's this. I liked what it tried to tackle with the themes, the scope, the size of it, the scale, the focus on the characters and their family, and the questioning of existence itself and purpose. And I just liked all of that in here, personally. I hope this doesn't discourage Marvel from doing things that feel a little less like the MCU standard up until this point, because this is the first film, like I said, where they allowed the director to even change the color grading, because they all have that same kind of feel and look to it that is required, and we've known that up until this point. From the scope, the scale, the cinematography, and the way it was shot, the way it was directed, I hope this doesn't discourage them, despite the divisive nature of the landscape at the moment, to not try something new down the line. Because, like a lot of people have been saying, the films are formulaic. Despite that, at least when you go into one, you're going to at least have a fun time with it most of the time, regardless of the formula. But I do appreciate and want them to continue to branch out and try doing something else in the Marvel world. Trying something that looks different, trying something that feels different, trying something experimental within the universe. I hope they keep that up. The post-credit scenes also in this, a lot of fun. There's a big old question mark in the second one that I'm still trying to figure out, but I won't, again, say what it is. So We'll be talking about this probably a little bit more next week on our live stream, because I want to give people the weekend to see the movie for themselves before we start talking major spoilers. We'll talk about it spoiler free on the live stream tomorrow, but try your best to be respectful of those who haven't been able to make it out to the theater yet, because not everybody's able to just kind of drop everything and go out and check this movie out just yet. And some people just can't go check it out at all since it's in theaters only. So try to keep that in mind, guys. But guys, if you've seen the film, I want to know what you thought. I know a lot of people were like worried about what I was going to think about this, and I'm giving you my honest thoughts on the film, honest feelings on the film. So I hope that's enough for you guys, and hope you all at least respect that if you didn't like it, because that's what we're here for. It's opinions, art is subjective, and you know, everybody's entitled to feel what they feel about the film. So that is my little speech at the end. Anyway, guys, if you've seen the movie, sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join our Discord. Links to that and all my socials are down in the description as well. Before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends, Manny Share, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yuri Korskov, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, and Jeffrey Hale. Thank you guys so much for your support. And thank you everybody who's tuned in and like, comment, and all that jazz. I love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.